I found this the other day. Probably quite hard to see. I've got a lot of course to be going over old bits and pieces, and it's made me think about the nature of nostalgia. It's a funny word. It tends to be wrongly used, in my opinion, to mean things like old-timey sweet shops and the good old days. When actually, when you find something that really resonates with you, or at least when I find something that really resonates with me, it's like being punched in the gut in a weird sort of way. And this photo was shot in Haute-Plage in France 20 years ago. I'm in the middle with some really, really good friends. And when I found it, I was just there again. You know, I could smell the air, I could feel the water around my feet. And I was sort of drawn back into that world in a really strange way. And the dictionary definition of nostalgia is to sort of want to be somewhere else. Like there's a lack of happiness with where you are, but that's not how it makes me feel. For me, it feels like a kind of collision of happiness that I got to live an amazing experience when I was younger, and maybe a sadness that I'll never experience things in quite that same way again. It's not that I want to be back there. It's not that I'm unwishing the last 20 years. It's just that time only moves in one direction, and the absolutely inexhaustible linear nature of that understanding that you'll never be back, you'll never be that person who is experiencing that beach in France without anything more than an abstract understanding of some of the really horrible things that sadly can happen in life, is a state you'll never be back in again. But that's okay. So this huge happiness and this huge sadness suddenly collide, and I feel like I get pushed sideways a little bit, sort of slightly out of my current mood or my consciousness, into a slightly more thoughtful, quiet, reflective place, which isn't entirely bad and isn't entirely good, and makes me wonder what the point of nostalgia is, like what evolutionary purpose it serves. And I'm drawing a bit of a blank, really. So I suppose it's kind of up to us, and that's a gift. When you feel that way, whether it's a smell that brings some memories back or a picture that you find, I suppose it's up to you what you want to do with that weight of emotion when it hits you. So what do I choose to do with it? I guess I choose to channel it. I choose to use it as a reminder that what life should really be about is trying to seek out those memories that are significant to you and that meaning around the way that you live that will stick in your mind and perhaps will give you another wash of that feeling in another 20 years' time. And I suppose for me, it also helps to galvanize me to understand that one of my jobs as a parent is to try and find things like that, experiences like that I can show my kids, and then I guess when they're a bit older, not stand in their way if they want to drive down to France at the age of 18 in a dodgy Ford Fiesta, and go and have those experiences themselves. So yeah, it's crazy.